proposed borings in the area. Some of those are angled underneath the buildings. And about 13 acres, as I mentioned, and we're expecting about 8,500 cubic yards of grout in that area. Could be a lot more. So that's kind of the scope of what we're looking at.
They took 25,000 ton of coal out of there every year. Doesn't take a lot of grout.
Yeah, it's a lot of volume.
Yeah, for like 20 years.
Area L, so we got about 87 proposed borings as of now. Once again, this is an investigation. There's a lot of questions that we have that we're trying to answer, so, and I'm sure we'll have more questions as we're progressing through the study as well. So, but that's the area that we're mitigating is about 1.8 acres. 4.3 acres is the perimeter of that red polygon that you see there. So we don't want to mitigate the whole thing, just a portion of it to really kind of confine the addition. And we're estimating about 4,000 cubic yards of grout in that area. This is just a quick drilling plan of area H. You can see basically some gaps more or less. Those gaps represent drillings that we more or less drilled in 2018 and grouted. So we're grouting everything that we left essentially from the project. And then this is the remaining area that we have at Deer Creek Estates, and it's primarily on the eastern side with some holes on the west as well, so that should go fairly quick.
That's where you got your sign.
Correct, yep.
Riley sign right there.
Yep.
You can see it there, right there, way over there.
You have better eyes than I do, Gary.
It's gonna go where, man?
So are you done drilling on my new paved streets?
In McDonald Mine?
Yeah, all down there on the short power and all that?
Yeah, so that's what we could call APE M&N, as Melissa
Yeah,
mentioned.
O is done.
O is done, so what we did is we finished the investigation, and we're likely going to be planning a mitigation there. To represent that mitigation is going to look really similar to what we did in O last year. So a lot of those results, we expect those similar results in M&N.
When do you plan on any type of mitigation there? Because we have a large
How old is that?
improvement of our infrastructure, water and sewer and streets down there this year.
Okay.
And our concern is we're putting all this in and putting in all new pavement.
Yeah.
And you guys are drilling huge holes in it. We're going to start up
We'll have pavement, Bruce.
at $1 million a block. It's a little expensive to be replaced.
We understand.
And you're throwing cold mix in instead of hot mix.
Ken?
It's gonna blow out.
Yeah, and some of the drillers' efforts to put the cold mix in there
Yep.
is, I think, driving over it with a four-wheel drive pickup's not the most impressive way to
Yeah, I mean,
compact it.
Yeah, that's good for us to hear. We definitely want to hear more of that, and that's the cold patch more or less. Maybe we go to a hot mix.
Yeah.
Yeah,
if
we
that's
need
what
to-
you suggest. So I
We
think
need to make
that's-
sure we put it back better.
Right.
We could definitely weave that, include that in our bid packages for those areas, well, for any area, but especially those areas.
Yeah, when
So,
they-
yeah, unfortunately, we can't time it where we can do it at the same time.
Understandable,
But yeah, that's a fair point. I think that's just gonna summarily be part of what we do from now on. That's easy. I mean,
we'd like to see a little better effort at that, other than a
Right.
four-wheel drive
No,
pickup
that's
trying to
good.
pack the whole,
Yeah.
driving back and forth on it doesn't work for us,
Yeah,
and
understood.
we're gonna have real problems with our streets again after the money we're gonna invest in this.
okay, we'll just do it.
Say one thing, to do this for you last year, I think you got Laser Construction doing your holes later in the year.
Yeah.
I see.
And they were using,
This year, they look good so far. I mean,
so
I don't-
far, but cold patch, eventually we're gonna lose it and we're gonna have potholes.
Plus, you don't know after a winter cycle,
Yeah.
you know when it's going to really do. So no,
How much moisture and water we have on the street, we could end up with a lot of problems in our pavement.
On the street. Oh my-
Randy, if you have anything like that, please let me know.
Okay.
We primarily subcontract Laser out there to do a lot of that
Well,
work.
and he went up and did a bunch up there and cut them out for us.
Right, yeah, and if you've seen anything, a question, yeah, definitely let us know. We try to react on that. That's what you said. If there's something that you're seeing now or whatever.
Well, I think I contacted you last time and then Dave called me and said, where are these? And I met him and showed him. And He fixed, cut them out, fixed them, put hot mix in it.
Okay, great.
Came out nice.
It sounds like there's a lot.
That's our subdivision. That's what they named that subdivision, Free Estates.
Definitely, we want to hear
Kinda
the
weird, but-
comments, the bad and the good, so we need to know. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
The plug's coming.
Are there any
Randy,
other
like
questions?
that goes in.
Yeah.
Question, now we talked about,
That's what they're using.
Gentleman wants to do
Nick, you notice it's come back in the
improvements
house.
on his properties, you're gonna do a pilot
Oh,
program.
did you see that? House
So we pretty much
out where
need
they
to tell them
grow.
to hold off.
That's our concern, we don't
Yeah.
use those streets.
Kind of your call, but yeah, right.
Just did that street.
Well, yeah, we're just, we'll be
Not
up
ours.
Do you
there,
have a guess?
taking it all out, do sub-basin, doing a whole new,
Yes, we
new
do.
paving
Dave?
project.
So we're looking to start that about, hopefully in May. Our goal is to get that done as soon as
No
possible.
more treats
what's
when we
that?
bring them for
The
him.
definition of
No more
system.
So we
treats,
got
we bring them for him,
4,000 cubic
teach him a
yards
lesson.
injected about 87 holes. So we're estimating that we can probably complete that work relatively quick. I would estimate maybe a month and a half.
Yeah, we're thinking-
Maybe 2 months.
So we're gonna say he needs to hold it May, June, July, it'd be smart for him just to hold off on his subdivision to July.
Right, and I definitely encourage him to come over and talk with us throughout this pilot program.
Yeah, I'd like to see what happens in your pilot program out there. That's really gonna tell us what's gonna happen, what we should do up there and what we should recommend through planning and zoning, whether or not to allow it to be
That'll be
developed.
good information for him as well, especially.
Especially for him, yes.
Right, precisely, yep. So, all right, that's pretty much all I got. I don't know if anybody else has any questions.
Go back to the railroad tracks.
The railroad tracks.
Yeah, about the third one. Wait a minute. Right there, here. That's my
That's
house
old.
off the right there.
Yeah,
I'll say you're responsible.
That's
yeah, that's Gary's fault.
to the right there, just to the right.
He's the one that drilled that hole.
Yeah.
Well, we found out what that hydraulicing of that water in those mine voids did. That's what started this pilot project again, was enough water, enough rainfall and stuff. That's what created it, and that's what's brought it on most every time is real wet spring has caused our,
So you wouldn't know
subsidence.
what a recovery rate is if you're gonna do water displacement.
Recovery rate of water.
Yeah.
It's not gonna be a 1-to-1.
not?
No. Well, it could, but I highly doubt it.
Okay.
I would imagine that some of that is definitely gonna be going into chlorination.
So that you're thinking, once it's grouted, you do the displacement,
Right,
then any recovery will be pushed through the sandstone, filtered out, and go back to.
exactly. Yep.
we hope it goes that direction.
Yeah.
No, it's gonna go up, it's gonna go down for
Oh, yeah. Yeah, thanks. One of the things people should know is while the project will be done within a month and a half, let's just say, we won't have our final report that soon. We can certainly give preliminary information. I'm not trying to withhold information. We just want to make sure our final report is a document that will withstand the test of time and is a public document. But we'll be in communication with you folks about this. Anytime, feel free to call us, talk to Dave in the field, Robert's in the field, although he might be in
Well,
here.
that's why I mentioned the McDonald area on the north side, because we're putting in about just a little over $3 million in
Yeah.
down there this summer,
Well,
and that we don't want to have a
we're just
problem
gonna
with.
weave that into our bid.
Sure.
Our bid projects as that just summarily has to be. We'll confer with you before we write it up, as a matter of fact, to
Appreciate
get
it,
the
yeah.
standards that we need, good recommendations
Sure.
and such, so that'll be easy, I guess you might
Yeah.
say.
Thank you.
That with the heads up, thank you. And, this is
Yeah, we
exactly.
want to be a little more working with you, so you know what we're doing. for
Right.
Infrastructure.
Yes.
What you're doing, so we don't create a problem between the two of us.
Definitely, let's keep the lines of communication
Yes.
open, that's the whole point, that's what we're here for, you guys, I mean, that's the bottom line.
Yeah.
And so, right, but I just, wanted to mention on the timing of that. And really briefly, you guys have been great. Thanks for your patience, and we can take more questions too. But I thought I'd just give people a little bit of a heads up on how we get property owner consent, how we inform property owners of what work is to come. And so, in the past, AML had what was sort of an unwritten policy. We called it the 100-foot rule. And essentially what that was is anywhere that AML is doing any kind of drilling, within a 100-foot radius of a property boundary, not just the structure boundary, but the property boundary, we would contact that individual, that property owner, and ask for consent if we needed consent to actually occupy the property to do our work. Often that's not the case. Usually we can do things from the street, do our work from the street, but not always. And also offer that Wyoming Mine Subsidence insurance that I mentioned a little earlier. And of course, that would require us to have consent to occupy the property, because part of that insurance policy involves a pre-policy home inspection. It's a baseline condition of the home, and it inspects or takes photos of all the rooms and any cracks that are already in existence, these kinds of things. So inherent in getting the policy is consent to occupy the property, but it's not necessarily to do the mitigation work. And so that's how it's been, and it works very well, and it's a great way to educate people about our program. What was happening with the 100-foot rule in some areas, especially places where properties are super close together, smaller properties, is that if, say, property owner B over here is not in favor of AML doing any work in that area, we were beholden to this unwritten policy of a 100-foot radius around the property, and you can imagine how many other homes would be affected by that radius. It starts to spread out quite dramatically, and what we were finding was that AML really couldn't fulfill its mission to protect the health and safety of the public from mine hazards. And so it was sort of a catch-22. We did some internal soul searching on the topic and realized, well, there's nothing that was sacred about that rule. It was something that made sense in one particular neighborhood in Rock Springs about 25 years ago to preserve the integrity of people's needs and such, and it's not a one-size-fits-all situation or approach. And so we went ahead and replaced it. And if you could just go to the next slide for me, Dave, that'd be great. And I have a copy of this if people would like to see it. It's pretty straightforward. Essentially, what we do now, very comparable to before, is we inform the property owner. We send a letter, excuse me, little information packet. We follow up with that with a one-on-one visit. If the person is interested, try to facilitate a conversation in which we can actually have folks like Dave and Robert, the people who work in on these projects, who know and have videos, documentation of what it looks like down below, because a lot of times the photo's worth 1,000 words type of phenomenon, and it really helps people understand what we're talking about, because I get it, it's Wyoming. You don't want people coming to your house and bothering you. I completely understand. But we really are trying to help educate and let folks know what we're up to. And then if the individual is still not interested, that's fine. We have a field checklist, a documentation of the conversation, and again, this is what's being proposed, by the way. And at that point, of course, the property owner can deny consent to access the property, can accept or deny, refuse the insurance. All of that is still at the whim and discretion of the property owner. And the only difference is, number one, we're documenting the conversation, and number two, even if it's no, go away, we have to document that. And then number two is that, let's just say that individual's neighbor is completely in favor of AML work on his or her property, and we deem that it's enough of a safety risk that we absolutely must mitigate. We will still mitigate that property next door. We're just obviously not going to set foot on the property that isn't interested. So it's a chance for us to respect the wishes of both property owners and then the safety needs of the area, and we think it's very workable. And so I don't think people will feel much of a difference necessarily here in Glen Rock, but I wanted to have a chance to explain it in these terms, because this is basically what we're doing, so folks know what's up. Dave, I don't even know how many. I think Area L, Oregon Trail Estates, is the only neighborhood that we haven't gotten the consents that fulfilled the old, outdated 100-foot rule. And so we were looking ahead and thinking, if we have to mitigate in that area, if we have to grout, there will be huge portions of blocks that we cannot grout if we follow this old, outdated rule that really isn't applicable. So that's the gist of it. We're still going to be able to respect people's wishes and, of course, property laws and such. No trespassing. We're not trying to do anything like that. That's not the point. But I think it's pretty self-explanatory. We are also presenting this new method to other communities, such as Hannah and Rock Springs. I won't be doing the Rock Springs one, but my counterpart will. So we're hoping to get any comments or concerns. So if you hear anything from folks, or I think the newspaper is here, and we're going to get some help to get the word out that way. One thing, we tried to do a public meeting last fall at the library, and I think we picked a poor day. There were other things going on in town, but it was really tricky to get people to come out, and I'm grateful that folks are here. Thanks for being here. And we really want to reach you the best way that helps you have a chance to ask us questions. I mean, that's the whole point. This is about you and your town. So, you know, spreading the word is great too, but just ask away. We'll be here afterwards if people have concerns. And yes?
Do you have any powers of eminent domain with this project?
We do not, no. So
So if you cause damage, you're not using the 100-foot rule, now you're using property line rule, right?
correct. That could be the worst case scenario. We're still going to make a genuine effort to, let's just say, you know, again, property owner B surrounded by A and C is not interested. We're going to look at our plans and the underground, the mappings, and all of the data that we have available to us and make the best possible decision to try and respect some sort of boundary. But, I mean, it's public space in the streets. You know, we need to mitigate the infrastructure. That is our mandate. That's, I'm a public servant, and that is my job, and I'm going to do my best to do it, to implement it properly.
The only
Yeah.
question I have is, these people that don't want you to come onto their property, I give you consent to go on my property on 6th Street, on
In-
Harlem Street. I
right.
get that.
Mhm.
And that's within 100 feet of 6th Street. Okay?
Say again, it's within
On
a,
the west side.
oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we didn't stay away from the west side too much,
Yeah,
just
still.
now we are, because we don't think there's planning. Anyway,
If some of these people that don't have, they didn't give you consent, and you went ahead and mitigated the property adjacent to that property, but that person that didn't give you consent didn't have insurance because they didn't give you consent, is that correct?
that's how it would unfold. It could unfold that way.
Okay, now, if somehow or another, when you did the mitigation on the property that you were doing, and it caused damage on this other person's property, what's his recourse?
Well, we have no way to document the pre-existing conditions because we weren't allowed to offer the insurance or do a baseline
So it's on
inspection.
that guy, is that what you're saying?
Pretty close.
So if you're mitigating over here and all of a sudden we have something happen over here, like he raises the building up 3 feet? or-
So,
you know,
I love Gary.
if the
This is
building
great.
Suddenly gets taller,
Well,
you know.
no, Gary,
Height
great,
thrills, Gary. We might have to cut the top off.
great. No, great question,
You
Gary.
know, it'd be better drainage around my property.
There it is.
Yeah, true.
Well, one of
Drain
the,
better.
As long as it raised it up like this instead of like this.
Right.
That'd be kinda weird.
no, it's an excellent question. One of the things we do that Brierley and all our contractors are phenomenal at is we have laser sensors to detect ground heave
Okay.
before it gets to 3 feet, and actually 1/10 of an inch, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, less. So we're very serious about this, and it's not like, oh, well, you know, that person's not in the, we didn't get consent, so we're not going to monitor it. We can still monitor across with the laser detectors. So we're still going to do all of the take all the precautions we would have. That's a good question, though. I mean, we don't want to omit people. You know, we want to. This Wyoming Mine Subsidence Insurance Program is just a great benefit to everybody in the state. So we try to offer it. It's not even mine to offer. It's a state program. I just get to educate people about it. So, I mean, I want everybody to know it exists.
Free insurance the first year.
Yeah, or maybe beyond, because often the AML work it'll overflow into the next year, you know, and so, I mean, this is a genuine, you know, need, and it's here for communities like this. So the more we can inform people about it, the better. And, you know, I know the other side of the coin is it's Wyoming. People like their privacy, and we don't want people on our home and our property, and I understand that, but yeah, it is what it is.
Well, I got a building over there that's built in 1910, and it hasn't moved in an inch.
Are you west of 6th Street?
Yes, west of 6th Street.
That
So
might
I
be,
think
I
I'm good, right?
think you're good.
Okay, unless it raises up for some reason.
Got good drainage now.
So-
You're all right.
New car. And I'm not going to read this slide. The information on this slide, I mainly wanted you to note this information exists on that goldenrod pamphlet that I kind of held up earlier, and I can give people copies if they'd like. But this sort of explains the program. Again, it does have a maximum coverage right now. You'll see on the third bullet from the bottom, the maximum coverage for private residents is $275,000. And then the business, it's not on there. It's higher. It's like 800,000 or something for a business. But so yeah, there's a limit to it. But it's a great program. Yeah. So if there are any questions, people want to do it offline while I'm here, whatever you want. So.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming. We appreciate it.
Appreciate being able to talk with everybody.
Likewise, yeah.
I encourage you guys to come find us and talk with us.
Yeah.
So is my insurance still in force?
Yeah, anybody who's had insurance from the beginning when we got here in 2016, we've been summarily renewing. So that's a great question. We summarily renew the policies while we're working in the area, and by the area, it's Glen Rock. We don't say, well, oh gee, that neighborhood, we haven't been there for a couple of whatever. We don't do it like that. We're in Glen Rock, we're working here. All of these are summarily renewed, and so eventually that would stop, but not yet. So. What happens is the insurance program, they're supposed to send you a month before.
Yeah.
A month before it expires, you're supposed to get a notice. And, yeah, so, and I don't run that, so
Jane does, right?
actually it's somebody else, June is her name, but, nobody should be shy about calling and asking questions about their policy. Once they get it, feel free to ask. I don't run it though, so I can only answer some questions. Can always find out who knows the answer.
Melissa, can
Yes.
you leave a few of those yellow pamphlets
Oh,
with
yeah.
us too?
I have a bunch. We can drop that off with you, Tammy.
Sure.
And some of my cards, and Dave Hibbert and all the Brierley guys are super approachable. This is your town. We want you to know what's going on, so please don't hesitate.
It helps us, we're conducting investigations, we want to do effective mitigation, so any information you guys can give us is greatly appreciated, so. And thank you, you guys have already, the people of Glen Rock have been amazing to work with, so thus far, I think it's been a very good symbiotic relationship between us, so, thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for coming tonight.
Thanks, everybody.
Moving on, bills and claims. We need a motion.
And make a motion to pay our bills.
I second it.
It's been moved and seconded. Any discussion?
None for me.
Being no discussion, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. Vote aye, motion carries. I'll ask for a motion for adjournment.
I move the meeting be adjourned.
I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Meeting adjourned. Thank you. She's got, everybody hold still for a minute. She's going to need some signatures.
Yeah.